Twitter criticism. This time reading CGTN for good. Just forget about. Now I'm going to read the last time. Now I have to read the genocide dossier. I'm not going to read anymore I'm not going to read Trump dossier anymore. But here we go, reading the genocide dossier. Muchas gracias. It says, Israel says Hamas must free 3 living captives on Saturday or war resumes on Saturday. So in the coming 3 days the war maybe will go on. There's a streaming a video, but there's a legend saying Israeli Prime Minister threatens to resume intense fighting in Gaza if Hamas fails to release captives held there by noon on Saturday. Live updates. Israel says Hamas must free 3 living captives on Saturday or war resumes. Israeli government spokesperson says Gaza war will resume if Hamas does not free 3 living captives at the weekend. By Alexander Kozul Ride, Virginia Pietro Marchi. Updated 21 hours ago. And the summary says, an Israeli government spokesman said Hamas must release 3 living captives on Saturday or Israel will return to war in the Palestinian territory. Hamas said it intends to release 3 Israeli captives on Saturday as scheduled, after it postponed the captive prisoner exchange earlier this weekend, citing Israeli violations on the Gaza truce deal. Hamas officials have held talks in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, with mediators, Egypt and Qatar to address obstacles, including an Israeli ban on entry of heavy machinery and mobile homes in Gaza. Gaza's health ministry has confirmed 48,239 deaths in Israel's war on Gaza, while 111,676 people have been wounded. The government media office has updated its death toll to at least 61,709 people, saying thousands missing under the rubble are now presumed dead. That's why 48,000. It jumped from that's why the number increased. And the latest, as usual, at least 1,139 people were killed in Israel during the October 7, 2023 attacks, and more than 200 were taken captive. So absolutely Palestinian defeat. This is the worst, the most stupid military action in human history, in my opinion. 2 minutes ago, UN official compares Gaza's devastation to, quote, massive earthquake, end quote. The head of the UN Office for Project Services has likened it to the destruction in the Gaza Strip to the aftermath of, quote, a massive earthquake, end quote. He warned that early recovery efforts must begin immediately to avoid a further, quote-unquote, humanitarian catastrophe. quote, what I saw in Gaza is similar to what you see in a massive earthquake. Yeah, I guess it's even worse, because of the details. There's a lot of destruction from above, not just from behind, from down, not just because of from land. In a massive earthquake where things collapse completely, end quote. Jorge Moreira da Silva said during a virtual news conference after spending the day in Gaza. He emphasized the urgent need to restore critical infrastructure and said, quote, the recovery in Gaza is possible. It's possible the same way that has been possible in places affected by massive earthquakes, end quote. He noted the quote-unquote severe shortages of medical supplies that hospitals are facing and said it leads to further dire consequences. Quote, surgeries are being performed without anesthesia and infections are spreading due to the lack of antibiotics, end quote, he said, adding that newborns are among the most vulnerable. Asked about US President Donald Trump's plans to take over Gaza and relocate the population, Moreira da Silva pushed back against any proposal for forced displacement. Quote, forced displacement is not consistent with international law, end quote, he said. Quote, let's not make the situation more difficult and complex than it is now, end quote. 17 minutes ago, watch, Israel is killing Palestinian journalists with quote-unquote impunity. Frank Smith, senior advisor for the committee to protect journalists, talked to Al Jazeera about the unprecedented number of Palestinian journalists killed in the Israeli military and what it means for the international law. And there's something like a streaming. There's a quotation, I've never seen a conflict where so many journalists have been killed, ever. 34 minutes ago, Yemen's Houthis emerged from Gaza war emboldened and with more enemies. The Houthis have gone through something of a transformation in their reputation since the onset of Israel's war on Gaza in October 2023. A rebel group from Yemen's far north, the Houthis had fought the Yemeni government and a Saudi-led coalition for almost a decade, providing a degree of military prowess, but had little ability to project power regionally. Even as they occasionally fired missiles and drones towards Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. And domestically, among many Yemenis, they were unpopular, regarded by their enemies as a theocratic and repressive group that wanted to end Yemen's republic, even as the Iranian ally defended their takeover of much of Yemen as a popular revolution. It is the same now. Read the full story here about the Yemenis. There's the Houthis. There's a photograph and a legend saying protesters, mainly Houthi supporters, hold weapons as they rally to show support to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip in Sana'a, Yemen. And lastly, 1 hour ago, is fatally Trump news. The Vatican opposes Trump's plan to relocate Palestinians. The Vatican Secretary of State Pietro Parolin has criticized US President Donald Trump's proposal to uproot Palestinians from Gaza. Quote, the Palestinian population must remain on its land, end quote. Parolin said on the sidelines of the Italy-Vatican summit, ANSA news agency reported. Quote, this is one of the fundamental points of the Holy See. No deportations, he added. I'm going to read the very last one because the last one was very short. 1 hour ago, France proposes plans to speed up Israeli troop withdrawal from Lebanon. France has put together a proposal for UN peacekeepers, including French troops, to replace Israeli forces at key points by a February 18 deadline. Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot says. On Wednesday, Israel's public broadcaster Khan said the U.S. had authorized a long-term Israeli troop presence in southern Lebanon after sources told the Reuters news agency Israel had sought an extension to a February 18 deadline to withdraw its forces from the area. Under a truce brokered by Washington in November, Israeli troops were granted 60 days to withdraw from southern Lebanon, where they had waged a ground offensive against fighters from the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah since early October. Hezbollah combatants were to leave the zone, and Lebanese troops were to deploy in the area within the same period. Quote, we have worked to formulate a proposal that can satisfy the security expectations of Israel, which plans to stay longer at certain points on the blue line, end quote, Barrot told reporters after a conference on Syria in Paris. He said the proposal will see UN peacekeepers, including French forces, substituting Israeli forces at observation points. The UN has backed the idea, he said. There's a very last one, Trump's Gaza plan, what it is, and why it's unworkable and globally rejected. I'm not going to read that, it's too long, but there. Genocide this year, people. Who knows what's going to happen? I will choose Colombia instead. I will fly to Colombia, I guess. If I were a Palestinian, or even if I win lottery right here in Chile, I will go to living in Colombia because it's cheaper and it's better. It's tropical.